Is using free open source models actually cheaper and more safe, or are there hidden costs and risks associated with using these free
Mm.
open source models?
Welcome to the Heavy AI podcast, where the future's forged in iron and code.
Hello and welcome to the Heavy AI podcast, the podcast where we explore the intersection of AI, technology, and industry. I'm Paul. He's Brad, and together we've built Hevi, your AI-powered contract administration. How's things this week, Brad? Anything jumping out in the world of AI as we're leading into the end of 2025?
No, very good. Nothing from a tech product kind of perspective, but I feel like I'm just getting this general sense that everyone else has accepted that, to be optimistic about AI now, whereas at first, when it came out, there was a lot more skepticism around it. Whereas I feel like now the tide has well and truly turned into optimism.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because everyone's just started to actually embed it into their personal lives, daily lives, and professional lives. Be like, oh yeah, I'm not going back to the old way of doing everything manually. So
Yeah,
better jump on board.
that's it.
Cool. Well,
Changing life with every tweet. Tomorrow's here inside its peak. Tuned into AI news of the
cool. Well, let's jump into our AI news this week. And I thought this week, given that we've had a bit of a release from Mistral, which is a European AI lab, of a new open source model that is, topping some of the benchmarks for open source models, but also, going up against like the OpenAIs and the Googles around the proprietary models on a lot of the benchmarks. And so I thought we'd take the opportunity to do a bit of a deeper dive on open source versus proprietary models, the pros and cons of either way, and the risks and of either option. Also, a bit of a potential conspiracy theory on what China are doing with the open source models. Like they've gone fully in on all open source models, with DeepSeek and Qwen from Alibaba, and I see even like Baidu, which is releasing more open source models, and so they've gone full open source. Versus most of the US hyperscalers have gone closed or proprietary, if you will.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting, the difference in strategy. And I think before jumping into how this is going to work with AI models, just like a bit of context, just from software in general, over like coding languages, for example, there used to be this kind of battle between proprietary coding languages and then kind of open source coding languages. And in the end, all the open source stuff won out because it was, just so easy for people to use, to get access to. But I think with AI models, it's a little different. And that's because if you want to run an open source AI model, you still have to like host it somewhere and then build a bunch of infrastructure around it to be able to use it. So I think less clear on which way is going to win out in the end here. I can see, as obviously like us, a business that uses AI models.
Yeah.
Like it's much easier just to go and get something that's fully packaged up and already works. And if you have to pay a little bit for that, then, who cares? If it's the best, that's what you want to be using.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because like a lot of I guess as models are developing over time, you like the fundamental like intelligence and base like comprehension of tasks. Like what are people using AI for? It's like the basic stuff of summarization, or just a bunch of like search items, or just like analyzing a bunch of data, or reviewing some call transcripts, or just like going and doing some sort of manual data crunching or admin tasks that would take someone hours. They're doing it in a couple of minutes with AI. So like those are the types of things that most models now that are the sort of any good will be able to do. And then it's only really that last sort of like 5 to 10% that you really need that state of the art model for.
Yeah, true.
Having said that though, I still find myself going like, oh no, I need to use Gemini 3 Max Thinking Pro for like any task. And same with like
Yeah.
5.1 thinking Max Pro. It's like I pay the $20 a month, so I'm going to use the max compute power and tokens
Yeah.
for my, oh, please tell me how I should respond to this email.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like almost a human behavior thing, a human psychology thing than anything else. Like if it's enough to access the best where it's still like a negligible expense for most people,
Yeah.
then they want to always use the best. Whereas if there's this big difference in price between the best and, cheap and nasty that gets the job done, then there's a huge market for that cheap and nasty. So yeah, we'll just see.
Yeah, and I think like if larger businesses or larger like workflow where you're trying to AIify every little nook and cranny, I think like having the right model job is becoming more and more commonplace as well. So you'd have like, okay, just summarize this meeting transcript and give you some action items. Like you don't need a $10 per million token model for that. It can just be like, oh, it can be a 0.01 cent model that will be able to give you an outcome that's just as good as the more expensive ones. So I think like that's where it's likely to be headed, is that like you'll have these tools on the tool belt. It's like, yeah, you're building a house, you've got a bunch of tools. You're not just using the like nail gun for every single job. You choose the right tool for the job. I think that's going to be applicable to AI models in the long run as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, like you're saying, there's some jobs which have lower requirements. I think the other factor that will matter is high volume. Like if it's
Yeah.
something that you just need to do
And speed.
and
Yeah.
speed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like things that you need to do very fast, a lot of times, and they don't need
Yeah.
much. I mean, that's where like small language models are going to come into play, and maybe that'll the kind of sex dominated by open source.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, we will just have to see how good they get.
Yeah, and I see that like some of the like AWS and Azure, and I think GCP probably do as well, is that like they do offer some of these like open source models hosted. Like I know that DeepSeek R1 is in our Azure Foundry environment. Like, yeah, I don't know what the answer is to all of this, but I guess we'll just keep an eye open and just keep experimenting and playing along the way.
No, exactly. And again, I was trying to save this point up for a bit later, but there is that middle ground of like you're using an open source, but you're paying, Azure or AWS someone to do all of the bits around the edges for you. So it's kind of this halfway in between. But then it comes down to like, well, is that actually, how much less is that costing you than just using Anthropic model? Yeah, if it's not that much less, I just use the better one.
Stay tuned to our FAQ and myth busting sections for a further discussion about that exact topic. But
Exactly.
let's dive.
Keeps me running, keeps me sleek. It's my compass, my guide, my street. Out to the week.
Let's dive into our AI tool this week, which we're going to talk about NotebookLM, which is a not very often referenced application from Google that, I don't know many people that know about it. And like when you talk about just general AI models and AI tools that are out there on the market and that are highly powerful and very good, not many people will bring up NotebookLM unless you really know about it. And I remember hearing about it first a few years ago when it first came out, and the whole cool thing was that like, you can upload any source material or like just a bunch of website content, and it'll give you a podcast where it's a AI man and woman podcast talking about the source content that you're talking about. And I remember talking to Mick Taylor at a conference a couple of years ago. Shout out Mick, that he was using it to like upload random mining engineering, deep technical ventilation design, analytical papers, and then getting a 15-minute podcast about that exact topic to learn about it. So great application of a pretty cool piece of tech. But I noticed that since the latest Gemini 3 release, the amount of options and what you can get out of NotebookLM is pretty hectic, to be honest. So like I've had a bit of a play around with some of our Hevi data. and just throwing in like all of this is publicly available information. It's our product deck that's on our website, and all the relevant like blog posts and articles that are on our website. And then a bunch of just YouTube videos, which again are just demo videos or webinars or like, how-to videos that are on our YouTube channel. So putting all of them as the source material for this NotebookLM app location, you've then got the option of like, audio overview, video overview, like mind map, flashcards, infographics, reports, quiz, slide deck, all that are generated based on that data. And the thing that I've found very similar to what we do at Hevi is that like it's by default not going out searching the web for additional context. It's only grounding it in the context that you give it. So like we're currently working with a number of offshore partners, and so like getting Hevi related materials into other languages, like that's been a bit of a game changer for us internally. So like generated 5-minute video reviews in Spanish, and an infographic that's fully in Spanish. And it's all like, it takes a while to run, but I mean, the output is pretty hectic.
Yeah, it is something that is quite differentiated. Like there's not another product that's quite like it. And it's interesting that just Google has had this for so long and it hasn't caught on as much as just people using like ChatGPT, Gemini, things like that. Even though it's more powerful and it's doing a lot of the things that they're trying to do in these other tools, but doing them properly.
Yeah, like I mean, you can like prompt Gemini to be like, "Oh, give me an infographic about ... and give you a bunch of outlines, and it'll go and do it. Or you can just click a button that says, "Hey, build infographic," and it'll do it automatically.
That's it. But I mean, the NotebookLM one would be better than the one that you get from
100%.
From Gemini. And so that's interesting. Like, why do you think that they have split it into two products? Like, why haven't they just rolled that capability into Gemini? Like, deep thinking or deep research, option toggle or something.
I think it's the fundamental problem with large businesses around the globe is that like they have silos. And I think from what I know, I think NotebookLM was a silo, and like Gemini, which was originally Bard or another version of like Google AI, was another silo. So it's like they've got all these like different areas that are looking at AI models and LLMs and like machine learning capabilities. And I think it's just a matter of like, hey, we've got departments that are building cool stuff. Yep, this department's also building cool stuff. Oh, we can work together, but also they're still separate at the same time. So like, I mean, someone from Google can reach out and we'd love to have you on if you want to give us a bit of a deeper dive. But from what I've seen, I think that's the case, is that like, some of the technology is across both platforms, but I think just fundamentally they're just different departments within Google.
Teams. No, absolutely would not surprise me, especially because NotebookLM has been out for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that just popped up after Gemini became big or anything like that. It's its own thing.
Yeah, it's been its own thing for so long. So if you haven't tried it, jump on over to notebooklm.google.com, throw in a bunch of source material and generate some stuff and have a play.
Answering your AI FAQs, the things I can and cannot do. Ask me once, ask me twice. I don't eat chips, but I'll give advice. No!
Moving to our FAQ this week, and jumping back to our open source discussion. Touched on it briefly before, but the question is using free open source models actually cheaper and more safe, or are there hidden costs and risks associated with using these free open source models?
Yeah, and I think it's there are those kind of three options. There's using the open source model where you have to build all of the kind of bits around the edges, the APIs for it, the code that actually runs the model, and then you have to find somewhere to host it yourself, etc. Which, maybe at scale that makes sense because you're saving a bit of money. But for anyone starting out, any like startups, scale up, even, and any other company whose core focus is not AI, like you're not going to do that. It's not worth it. Then there's that middle option of using a like an open source model, but with the infrastructure provided by an Azure AWS. And that,
or a the DeepSeek or Alibaba Qwen website,
well,
which
yeah,
is
true.
hosted in China instead. Not even yeah.
That's it. So it's a bit of a spectrum there about like how much
Yeah.
cost saving versus security and versus performance. But overall, I don't know. I don't. For me, anyway, I don't see much reason to do that. Like, if you're already paying for it, you may as well get the best one, get the best models. So yeah, there are definitely hidden costs, and there are risks, obviously, if you're using someone else's infrastructure, and that is, somewhere offshore, for example.
Yeah, I think that's the spectrum of like cost versus security. It's like, if you want the cheapest cost and you don't care about security, go to deepseek.com or whatever their website is. I don't even know what it is off the top of my head because I don't use it. Or Qwen or any of those ones that are self-hosted in China. And China will do whatever they want with your data. Or you can go the next step to be like, okay, I'm going to spend a bit of money and I'm going to like self-host either on a cloud provider or rack my own servers and build whatever there is. Or pay the money to a well-known model, are going to be quite secure. So like, there's the spectrum that you got. Choose your own adventure.
One thing I probably do want to clarify though is that just using, say, a DeepSeek model is not inherently not like unsafe, insecure, or anything if you're using it on your own infrastructure, because like the model itself is just a file. It's just a bunch of weights. It's just a bunch of numbers.
Exactly.
And so it's only about how, like, if you're running that in a system which is on your own, hardware, or even if you're using it through Azure or something in your own environment, like that's not any less safe than using any other model. It's only really if you're using their hosting that's, then there's data sovereignty implications.
Busting, tearing it down. Every lie, every fear spun around. We're not the villains, not the crown. AI myth busting, true profound. True profound.
Awesome. And jumping into our open source, but that's the myth being, hey, that you must pick a side. You either need to be open source or you need to be going full proprietary model. Like, is there a middle ground, or can you just have that be working along that spectrum that we've talked about?
I think, like you said, it's about picking the right model for the job. That's going to become more and more important. Like, already, most of the time, every time you get a new release, say, of a new GPT model or whatever, it'll come out with the mini version and the nano version. So you can have your kind of like cheaper, lighter version, or your like best performance version. And now you can kind of, just even within the proprietary world, get a decent enough spread. But yeah, if there was an open source one that was much cheaper, or maybe just tailored to a certain thing that the proprietary guys weren't going to touch because it's too much of a niche, I could see that being some situation where you could just use an open source for one, use proprietary for another. There are plenty of platforms and tools out there now that, especially when you're building code, are just these little tiny wrappers around them, all of their APIs.
Aggregate everything.
So you can make a call in the same exact way and just switch the model easily, and it formats your request properly for whichever model it's going to. So it's very easy to switch models these days.
Yeah, I think, and that's sort of like OpenAI tried to do with GPT-5, with their like trying to auto route based on the question or the prompt that were being asked, as like which of the nano mini super cheap one versus the like DeepSeek ultra pro expensive one, like it auto allocates and auto routes to that correct model. Like, I personally hate that. Like, it uses the wrong prompt because they're not incentivized to spend money on tokens. Like, I want you to spend all the money on tokens. But I think
exactly.
one of those more of those like middle, like app layer type stuff, whether it's your cursors or whatever, that have like all of the menu of all the different models that you can pick and choose your spectrum of like, hey, this is like lighter weight and cheap, but I know that to execute this, I only need something that's lighter weight and cheaper, versus like, oh no, I'm doing a deep debug about this architectural blah, blah, blah. I need to be using the Ultra Pro Max version.
Yeah. I think the only time it doesn't make sense to use them side by side is probably if you're going to all the effort of building out your own infrastructure to host it, and then using and going, oh, we're going to save costs by doing this, and then using some off the shelf here. I'm sure someone has a reason why they should do that, but like overall, if you're going to be using multiple, I'd say just use it through Azure or AWS, where
through your cloud service provider of choice.
Don't duplicate the effort of like outsourcing, like pay the cost of outsourcing infrastructure and then also build it yourself. Like that kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Like, surely more of the world is moving to the cloud, even across the legacy industries. But we'll on keeping on, and that's it for us today. Be sure to like and subscribe us wherever you're listening to the Hevi AI podcasts. And if you'd like to learn more about Hevi, jump on over to hevi.app. And thanks for listening and have a great day.